Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today's mission is all about finding the formula for fortune. And to do that, we have to synthesize probably the most improbable stack of sources we've ever seen.
That's a wild mix.
I mean, we've got global e-government reports, CIA anxiety training, complex theories on fraud, and then these deeply personal guides on manifesting and the psychology of desire.
It sounds chaotic, I know, but if you step back, the core focus of every single one of these is the same. Is that, persistent human effort to find and impose structure.
Right.
Whether that structure is logical, financial, or even spiritual, you're putting it onto the inherent chaos of life and status and relationships.
So we're asking how we apply predictable systems, data, to the parts of reality that feel totally unpredictable.
Exactly.
How do you maximize your impact when you're communicating with a federal agency versus, say, someone you're trying to attract? The mechanisms, and this is the surprising part, they actually share some DNA.
They do. We're looking for patterns. The efficiency of data fusion in customs fraud, for instance, it shares principles with the formulas people use to manage their own anxiety.
Or even manipulate the emotional calculus of a relationship.
Right. It all comes back to defining a set of repeatable steps to get a specific maximized outcome.
Okay, let's unpack this. Part one. The relentless pursuit of predictable outcomes. And we have to start at the global level with these massive efficiency gains in government. The digital transformation of statecraft, according to that 2020 UN e-government survey, has just accelerated exponentially.
It's a remarkable pace. The survey showed that 57 countries reached very high e-government development index status in 2020. That's a 43% increase in just 2 years.
So the state is no longer just a passive record keeper.
No, not at all. They are becoming what places like Singapore define as an active data-driven participant.
And what does that mean in practical terms? For me or for a business?
It means anticipation. Instead of waiting for you to file a tax form or apply for a service, the system often has the data fusion capacity to anticipate your needs.
So it might proactively offer services or warnings.
Exactly. The structure is built to make the whole interaction seamless.
And we see that precision being tested, really aggressively in global trade, especially with customs intelligence.
Yeah.
Our sources get into how commercial fraud is becoming so sophisticated that the inputs themselves are legitimate. Like the separate components to make illicit cigarettes, for instance, are all widely traded commodities. They look fine on a manifest.
So you can't flag the component parts. You have to flag the confluence of conditions. The solution has shifted from, a simple X-ray to this highly complex data analysis, risk profiling, and tech like computer tomography, CT technology.
CT scans, we know those from hospitals, but why is that level of detail suddenly necessary for a shipping container? What does it give you that a standard X-ray can't?
Well, a standard X-ray gives you a two-dimensional density image. It might show a hidden void, but it can't tell you what is in that void.
Okay.
CT technology, on the other hand, gives you increased material specificity. It can differentiate between organic and inorganic materials, even measure atomic density. That gives analysts really high confidence.
And that lowers the false alarm rate, which must be critical.
It is, because if the system flags every crate as suspicious, trade just grinds to a halt.
Of course.
And this sophisticated detection only works if all the data is immediately fused. This requires a strict open architecture, or OA and interoperability standards.
Let's define open architecture there. What happens if that system fails?
If the architecture is closed, the expensive CT scan data, the stuff that tells you what's in the container, can't communicate with the bill of lading from the shipping company, or the corporate registry info, or the risk profile from the AI.
So you have all these perfect sources of information
that can't talk to each other. It renders the whole system fragmented and, frankly, ineffective. Structure only wins when all the data pieces are aligned.
That need for high-impact clarity, for successful data triage, it leads us perfectly from global trade to high-stakes personal communication. We just saw how governments need high-impact data to triage containers. Let's apply that to a busy attorney who is triaging clients.
The principle is identical. The objective is maximizing that signal-to-noise ratio. The key advice from our sources when you contact an attorney is to immediately cut through the noise.
So skip the flowery, excessive formality, or trying to use legal jargon you don't really
Yeah,
get.
absolutely. The classic mistake, as the sources warn, is try to be the lawyer. Spending pages citing some obscure law to impress a professional. They're triaging their workload. They just want facts, not a poorly argued brief.
So the goal of that first contact is just to get a follow-up.
That's it. And you do that by establishing severity and clear liability immediately, The example in the defective crib case was so effective.
Right.
The initial letter didn't waste time on sentimentality. It just stressed that the manufacturer knew about the risks of infant entrapment and had received documentation on at least 5 other reported deaths from the exact same hazard.
That focus on prior knowledge and documented deaths, it's just pure high-impact facts. It establishes clear liability and applies maximum legal pressure. It's a formula.
It's structure applied to argument. You give them a clean, powerful data set they can act on it.
This brings us to a really fascinating application of structure, which is taking control of the chaos of your own future by, well, manifesting a dream life. And the premise here is that success isn't magic, it's a replicable recipe. It just requires deliberate, structured action.
Right. It takes the abstract concept of wanting and it turns it into an engineering problem with clear, actionable steps. Step 1 is the art of wanting. It's about permission. Give yourself the most audacious fantasy, the castle, the jet without apology.
But the crucial link is the next step. Scaling that fantasy down to manageable milestones. It addresses that chaos of just feeling overwhelmed. If you want $1 million, the brain just shuts down.
The Postmates driver example is perfect here. She wanted these $75 shoes. Instead of getting overwhelmed by the cost, she treated it like a small project. 1 extra delivery per day. 2 weeks later, she had the cash.
She structured a large desire into small, manageable actions.
And that bypassed the psychological hurdle of inertia.
And that structure empowers the next step, which is delusional belief plus bold action. I love this phrase. Hyper-realistic with your unrealistic fantasies.
It's not enough to just wish. You have to externalize that belief with some kind of action.
Like the individual who drove up to the nicest building in LA years before they could afford it and just announced to the doorman, I'm going to live here.
Right. That action, making the impossible a verbal reality, it alters your relationship with the goal.
And the final payoff is expectation. If you follow the recipe, you get the flour, the sugar, the eggs, put them in the oven. You don't get surprised when we have a cake.
You expect it. You eliminate the emotional chaos of hope and replace it with the structure of expectation.
So we've seen the success of structure, but now we have to confront the limits of prediction, the forces of chaos that resist even the most advanced systems. Even in a theoretically deterministic universe where every particle's position is known, the universe is still fundamentally unpredictable to any observer inside it.
And this takes us to the concept of computational irreducibility. It's a profound idea. It states that for certain complex processes, there is no shortcut.
What do you mean by no shortcut?
If you wanted to simulate a complicated phenomenon like a massive, turbulent chemical reaction unfolding atom by atom, the only way to know the outcome is to watch the reaction run in real time.
So even with perfect knowledge, time itself is the irreducible element. There's no fast-forward button for reality.
Precisely. If you wanted to predict where every leaf from a single branch would land, you'd have to calculate every variable, wind, microeddies, leaf wobble, and it would take as much time as the actual event itself. The process is the answer.
And that frustration with ambiguity, with chaos, it even drove the creation of this constructed language, Lojban.
Right. They tried to eliminate all homophones, all cultural ambiguity, all vague words. They built the entire language on mathematical logic to achieve ultimate, undeniable clarity.
But it failed to become a truly functional language, right?
Because humans rely on context and ambiguity, the very things Lojban tried to eliminate. Its existence just proves that language itself is, in a way, irreducible.
Okay, moving from the abstract to real-world chaos, we hit the social friction when competence doesn't line up with official status. This is the enduring lesson of the almighty janitor trope.
It's the paradox of institutional knowledge. The person with the shiny title is on the 20th floor reviewing reports, but the janitor is in the basement.
Seeing the system from the ground up.
Knowing every structural flaw, every broken valve, every unofficial transaction that actually keeps the place running. The janitor holds ultimate, low-status, high-value knowledge.
That's a compelling contrast, but let's pause on that for a second. If competence is truly divorced from status, how can organizations fix that? I mean, doesn't relying on the janitor just reinforce the idea that management is useless, even if they hold all the accountability?
Well, that's the tension, isn't it? You need both.
Yeah.
You need strategic oversight and ground-level knowledge. The trope just highlights how much we underestimate the latter. The Finnish word for janitor literally translates to man of the house.
The true guardian of the infrastructure.
Not just the cleaner.
Yeah.
We see this in fiction, too. The character in the game Subnautica. the chief of non-essential systems. His knowledge of maintenance allowed him to cure a planet-wide plague and save everyone. His low status hid essential skill.
Now contrast that essential but invisible skill with our modern hierarchy, which is all about hypervisibility and manufactured status.
Coachella is the ultimate example. It's the influencer Olympics, where your follower count determines your access, and the actual chaotic experience is secondary to documenting a curated, structured life for your feed.
And that manufactured status, driven by visibility, can outweigh common sense to a really dangerous degree.
We saw sources citing these viral status trends that just completely override rational thought and cause real-world chaos. The blackout challenge, which encourages self-asphyxiation for views, has been tragically linked to the deaths of several children.
And separately, the Kia challenge, an easily replicated method of felony auto theft, turned a serious crime into viral high-status content in places like Milwaukee.
Directly contributing to massive civil chaos.
That reliance on manufactured status shows just how quickly structure can break down. And that need for structure, it also evaporates when we look at the chaos of attraction and desire. What makes a relationship move from stable interest to, well, outright obsession?
It's the failure of structure. It's an addiction to inconsistency. The sources define this obsession formula as inconsistent, unpredictable attention. You are warm but cold, available but not fully.
So it's a form of intermittent reinforcement, like a slot machine.
Exactly. You're triggering anxious attachment wounds, and the person confuses that chaotic emotional contrast, the constant cycling of hope, fear, reward, and withdrawal from passion. Their brain gets addicted to the dopamine hit, not the person.
So stable affection feels boring by comparison.
Right. But for a long-term partnership, the attraction matrix shifts completely. Physical looks are crucial for that initial short-term attraction.
It signals viability.
But for lasting value, the signals change. They shift to signals of structure, intellect, kindness, dependability. These qualities signal resourcefulness, stability, trustworthiness. We've even formalized this idea with the modern term sapiosexual.
Okay, let's look at the financial structure of personal trade-offs, specifically in transactional relationships where image itself is treated as capital. In the sugar dating scene, the pursuit of wealth requires a very specific and very costly image structure.
It's an economic calculation, and it's driven by competition. Because there's so much competition, individuals have to make these continuous investments in their image lip fillers, BBL consultations, specialized clothing, just to widen their audience and attract wealthier clients.
One interviewee, Kiki, was even told by a surgeon that she didn't have enough fat for a BBL, which in that context is a statement about her market viability.
It's intense. And yet, despite the emotional chaos in those arrangements, the structured financial outcomes can be potent. One 25-year-old sugar baby reported saving over 300,000 pounds in a few years.
Which she then used as seed money to start her own dermatology business.
Right. The transaction, though fraught, was structured to yield massive entrepreneurial finance.
That's a rigid financial formula, and juxtaposing that perfectly is the mystical structure of tarot. We saw a reading that offers spiritual guidance on achieving a structured, happy family life, the Ten of Cups.
The reading showed a masculine energy, symbolized by the Emperor card, being guided to overcome a third-party trap to achieve that union. But what stood out wasn't the mysticism.
It was the fact that even this spiritual structure required rational, internal work.
Exactly. The reading emphasized the absolute necessity of self-discipline for both parties. They had to overcome their own poor habits or addictions before any external success could happen.
Structure for the soul, structure for the bank account. Okay, finally, let's look at structuring the mind itself to resist chaos, using techniques from the world of espionage.
We often assume spies must be these stone-cold, low-anxiety people. But the CIA actively looks for people with high anxiety.
Really? Why?
Because ancient people are naturally more attentive and observant. They notice details others miss. The key isn't to eliminate the anxiety, it's to train it into focus.
So how do they weaponize that anxiety?
They use stress inoculation, which is basically a form of exposure therapy. They intentionally find moments of stress in a safe environment, so the body processes the anxiety response before the real high-stakes event.
So you structure the emotional chaos preemptively.
You do. And there's a simple, practical structure for managing daily chaos. From Erokhane. Our sources noted that 90% of your daily anxiety is determined in the first 2 hours of your day. So the key tactic is to set an alarm, not for when you wake up, but for when you can pick up your phone.
Ah, I like that.
By forcing that first hour to be quiet stretching, reading, whatever, You ensure the day starts with you controlling the input, rather than letting the chaotic inputs of email and social media control you.
We've traveled from the perfection of data systems, like CT scans needing open architecture to work, to the personal formula of boldness and delusion needed to manifest wealth.
And we saw that absolute clarity, like the kind sought by the language lodged on, is often impossible. It's because of the irreducible complexity of reality,
So success comes not from achieving that perfect Lodge-like clarity.
but from becoming supremely adept at navigating the necessary uncertainties of life. Whether you're dealing with a complex market, an attorney, a romantic prospect, or just your own anxious mind, the ability to focus on high-impact facts and install self-discipline is the foundation.
We highlighted the almighty janitor, the man of the house, who knows the system's flaws better than the distant administrators. And the structures we build, digital, physical, personal, they all require maintenance. And often, the most essential knowledge is low-status knowledge. So here's the thought for you to carry forward. What essential low-status knowledge are you ignoring in your own life because it's less visible than the shiny, filtered facade? The flaw in the system that only the janitor sees might be the key to your success.